Okay. Countries they drink hot. They drink. Okay.
Hello, come on in. We're going to start.
So we're going to start today. Yud Zayin, right? 17.
Esfei.
Esfei, the top line. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. In the source of our learning, we should have the base of English. Okay, what we learned here is a machlekes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish based on the Mishnah. Mishnah says that someone that accepts on himself to be a Nazir, but he was in the cemetery. Good morning. He was in the cemetery, or he was tamei at the time when he accepted it. So we say that he doesn't have to bring the karban. That normally a Nazir that becomes tamei has to bring a special karban, asham nazirus, and then he restarts. He doesn't have to do that because he was tamei before he even started. Okay, that would only apply to someone that was a regular Nazir. He was tar, pure, and then he became tamei. Then he has to bring the karban. So now we have machlekes based on that. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. What we understood the machlekes was: does he have to restate when he becomes tar that he's becoming a Nazir? According to Rabbi Yochanan, the acceptance of becoming a Nazir when he was tamei is still there, and right when he becomes pure, the Nazir starts. And according to Reish Lakish, he has to re-accept it. Well, we had some proofs this way and that way. We tried to answer them up, and now Esfei. Now we have a question. Say, Ein bein Nazir, Ein bein tamei shenazar. Le Nazir tar shenitma. There's only going to be one difference between a tamei person, an impure person that accepts on himself to be a Nazir, and a pure person that's a Nazir that becomes tamei. In other words, either beginning with tuma and accepting on himself to be a Nazir, or beginning with Nazirus and then becoming tamei later. There's only one difference. What's the difference? Tamei shenazar, when it comes to someone that was impure, and then while he was impure, he accepted on himself to be a Nazir. Over there, we're going to say shvi shalai ayla minyan. How does someone become pure? He has to have the paraduma, the ashes of the red heifer, sprinkled on him on the third day and on the seventh day. So when he does that on the seventh day, he has to now start counting his nazirus, right? Because it was tamei when he accepted to be a Nazir. So the nazirus only starts once he becomes pure. So that first seventh day. That seventh day is the first of his nazirus. However, the Nazir tar shenitma, but someone that was a Nazir that then became impure, that also has to count 7 days, but ein shvi shalai ayla layla minyan. His seventh day is not the first of his recount of Nazirus. The reason is because someone that was a regular Nazir and then becomes tamei, he has to bring sacrifices on the 8th day. Becomes pure throughout those 7 days, and then he has to bring his sacrifices, and then his Nazirus restarts. So the difference between someone that was tamei before he started the Nazirus and someone that was tamei that became tamei after the Nazirus is if you can count the 7th day as the first of the Nazirus. And the difference is, of course, if there's a karban that he has to bring. So we know already in the Mishnah that there's no karban, so that means that the 7th day could already be counted as the first of the new Nazirus. So that would be the difference. Now, if we're going to accept the view of Reish Lakish that says, when someone was tamei and then he accepted on himself Nazirus, let's say he's in a cemetery or something. He says, "I'm going to be a Nazir." Does he have to re-accept it when he becomes pure?
When you made the nether in the cemetery.
When they made the nether in the cemetery. Now, if we say that that the Nazirus doesn't take effect until he re-accepts it, my Elohim in a minion.
Doesn't it retroactively work when he leaves the cemetery? It becomes a Nazir?
That's what Rav Yochanan says. And Rish Lakish says that because it didn't take effect initially, so he has to re-accept it. Now, if he has to re-accept it,
You give a carbon if you become Tameh while you're a Nazir, you have to start over. Is that
if the Nazir becomes Tameh, he has to bring 3 korbanos. He has to bring a chatas and ayla. Those are both birds. And a burnt offering. Those are birds. And he has to bring an asham. Asham is a guilt offering. Asham Nazirus.
Is that a description of what he brings?
No, at the end, normally I think he brings. Yeah, he brings a chatas and ayla and a shlamim. Here he brings 2 birds and a nasham.
an Asham could be what, like a lamb?
Asham, I think it's I don't remember if it's a male or female. Yeah, it's going to be a sheep. A lamb.
An under year, a young lamb.
I don't remember. Right. What if
Think
the
of ahead of
vow is annulled? It's annulled.
No, but like if someone tells you, look, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go on a trip, and you vow that my wife takes notified.
Right.
When and the slave does that, when he comes back, it doesn't nullify.
Right.
So is that like a good?
No, when is that similar? No, over there it's a complicated example that you're offering because over there he had to actually hear it when he came back, and then we're just concerned that he was going to be distracted by the trip, that he was going to forget to say that it's mufar, so we said the shliach would do it for him. And that's a complicated example. So what we're saying here is that if you have to re-accept it, so why would it count as part of the Nazirus? Until you re-accept it, it's not considered Nazirus. You have to re-accept it for it to be Nazirus. So what are you saying that this is like automatically? That's a difference between someone that was tummy before or not. It has to do with when they re-accept it. Okay.
You hear about Mar or Ravashi?
That's what we're holding right now. So Amar Mar Baravashi readjusts the whole machlekes, our whole understanding of the machlekes. If you have to re-accept the Nazirus or not, that's not the pshat. Meichal Kuli Amalek Pigid Chayla. Mar Baravashi, the end of the Talmudic period. He says that the machlekes Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish is not the way you thought. Really, everyone agrees that you do not have to re-accept the Nazirus. You accepted it when in the cemetery. It doesn't take effect, or actually it does take effect, but you don't start counting the days of Nazirus until you leave the cemetery and become pure, but you don't have to re-accept it. So what is the machlekes? The pligi, the milky. Machlekes is if you get malchus for becoming tameh. Now, obviously the malchus would only be if they were warned that you should not remain in the cemetery.
Oh, what is this?
This-
Capital K-A? And then,
If he stepped out of the cemetery and then he went back in.
I don't know if that matters, or if he waits in the cemetery and they tell him you should not be in the cemetery. Yeah, but that was that was our old understanding of Rish Lakish. The new understanding of Rish Lakish is that he is a Nazir. Question is, do you get Malchus? Now, Why is there a question here? Rabbi Yochanan holds even the Chaylalaki. Look, if you're a Nazir, then you get Malchus for on purpose with a warning coming tummy. And Rish Lakish says, you don't get Malchus, but there still is, the Naziris is still there, you don't get Malchus. Now, what about everything else? What about, are you allowed to drink wine and are you allowed to cut the hair? According to everyone, according to this, you're not allowed to, which is different than the way we understood it before. According to the way we understood Rish Lakish yesterday, is that you weren't a Nazir at all. Now we're saying, no, you are a Nazir. The only question is, regarding Tumah, would there be Malchus regarding Tumah? Okay. Esri Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan has a question on Rish Lakish. Misha Nazir b'beis hakvaris. Someone is a Nazir. Someone accepts on himself to be a Nazir, but he was in the cemetery when he accepted that. Even if he's there for 30 days. Ein oilei min haminyan. Doesn't count from the Naziris. The Naziris is supposed to be 30 days. He waited in the cemetery 30 days. It doesn't. At the oil, right? It doesn't count for his the time that he needs to spend as a Nazir. Maybe carbon tumah, and he doesn't bring the sacrifice that normally a Nazir would bring, even though he's tummy. Now, Rabbi Yochanan analyzes the statement. Carbon tumah hudlay maisi. He doesn't bring the carbon tumah, a milkilaki Allah, but he does get malchus. If they would tell him, get out of the cemetery, or else you're going to get lashes, he would get lashes. Why? The Mishnah only says that he doesn't bring the carbon tumah, the carbon that normally a Nazir brings when he's tumah. He doesn't bring that. But it doesn't say that he doesn't get malchus. So probably he does get malchus. So Reish Lakish responds to that, B'dinhud b'lisnei ain't like it. It could have said also that he doesn't get malchus. But because the Mishnah is trying to be symmetrical with what it says, in the later case of the Mishnah, that says Yatza v'nichnas oilei min haminyan u'maybe carbon tumah, that if he leaves the cemetery, becomes pure, and then goes back into the cemetery, then he does have to bring the carbon. So Tanaresha ain't maybe carbon tumah. So that's why in the beginning we say that you don't have to bring the carbon. Now, 1 second. In the Seifa, maybe he gets malchus also. It could have said that. Well, the Seifa wasn't talking about that he did it b'mezid on purpose, that he became tamei. And over there it's talking about that it was b'shogeg, that he just has to bring the carbon, which means he has to recount. He shaves his head. He brings the carbon. He starts over. So over there it says he has to bring a carbon tumah. Over here it says he doesn't have to bring the carbon tumah. But you can't prove from that it's only the carbon that's different, and that he doesn't get malchus. We're not talking about that. We're comparing it to the seifa. We're just talking about the carbon. Yeah, you had a question.
Question was, like, for example, here's giving the example of the cemetery. Would the same thing apply if it's you're drinking a glass of wine, and he says, "Oh, I'm gonna get another place."
And then he continues drinking it. He's immediately a Nazir.
So that's a difficult example to make because this isn't a place.
No.
Would he become a Nazir right after he's done with that glass? And then
He probably becomes a Nazir immediately. He drinks more wine, and they tell him that don't drink that. You just accept in yourself to be a Nazir. We get malchus. Over here, he's in a cemetery. They're telling him you don't belong in the cemetery, and he doesn't go out. So he's, according to Rabbi Yochanan, he gets malchus. According to Rish Lakish, he doesn't. Question is, what's the explanation for Rish Lakish? He is actually a Nazir. Why doesn't he get malchus?
Is there any issue if someone builds a home on like an ancient cemetery or something? They figure out like it was a
Yeah.
cemetery.
Movie. Bad. Family.
What's it called?
Poltergeist.
I don't know.
What is that about?
That's what I'm asking.
built a developers get cheap land in California.
So, the ghosts and stuff.
But it would be an issue like halachically.
It is a problem.
Some people like built homes like in the Civil War.
Yeah,
Watch the movies.
only for a coin.
Trying to understand, I'm stuck on this idea of somebody getting office. Having other problems also, because usually you have one punishment that ends
Right.
the issue.
Right.
Stack things up.
Right.
And he's saying he gets malchus, and he also, I guess they're different things. You get malchus because you're over on a law, and then you have to become tahar.
And then he has to, yeah, he has to bring kabbanis as well. So what you're thinking about is the kamle d'Rabmine, that you only get one punishment.
Right.
First of all, I don't know if that applies to malchus. I think it applies to, you don't pay. I have to look at the Gemara again, how malchus plays into that. I'm not sure. But whatever the case is, this only has to do with like punishments. Over here, he has to redo the Nazirus. This malchus has to redo the Nazirus. That's not like a punishment.
That's not a kanas.
Okay. Another question. Yeah. If the Nazirite ship began, and then he becomes Tameh, so then he would bring sacrifices. But if it started when he was Tameh already, then he doesn't bring sacrifices.
But in the case of law, it could be both.
According to Rabbi Yochanan, he would get malchus on both of those. And according to Rish Lakish, only if he was a Nazir, regular Nazir, and then he on purpose becomes Tameh. Okay. Esvei Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan asked Rish Lakish another question. Misha Nazir Vu B'Veis HaKvaris. Oh no, I'm sorry, we did that already. Now we're up to Tashema. Tashema, come and listen. Ein bein Tamish and Nazir, the Nazir Tarsh and Nitma. There's no difference except for one difference between a Tami person that accepted on himself to be a Nazir and a Tar person that was a Nazir that becomes Tami afterwards. There's only one difference. That's what it says. A lot of times, Ein bein Ella. There's no difference, but that means it's only telling you this. There's just one difference. So such a, there's no difference, but it means to say that there's no difference, but which means there's one difference. Ella, the difference is Shetami Shenazar, someone that was Tameh before this started, and then he accepts on himself to be a Nazir. Seventh day is counted as the first of his Nazirus. The Nazir Tar Shenitma, but a Tar person that was a Nazir that then becomes Tameh. Seventh day does not count as the first, and we explained before because he has to bring the karbanos on the 8th day, so he can't restart till he brings some sacrifice. Okay, so far no proof. Hola Malchus, you told me there's only one difference regarding the 7th day, but regarding if you get Malchus, if you hang out in the cemetery longer than you takes to get out of there, obviously if you're running out of the cemetery as fast as you can, you're not going to get Malchus. No, it's referring to someone that was Tamei Mace. What a cemetery was not, what was prohibited for a Nazir was to come in contact with the corpse. Ola Malchus, but you told me there's only one difference. But for regarding getting lashes, they're going to be equal. Both of them are going to get lashes. Sort of a proof to Rabbi Yochanan that says that someone that was tummy that accepts on himself to be a Nazir, he'll get lashes even before his Nazirus actually, even before he starts to count the Nazirus. Amalei, so Rish Lakish responds, Loi. It's not the case. What he meant to exclude over there when we said that there's only one difference, do you count the seventh day or not? That was not saying that regarding lashes they're equal. That we meant to say regarding shaving the head they're equal. That both of them shave their head on the seventh day. Normally, a person that was tamei, they sprinkle on him on the third day and on the seventh day the ashes of paraduma. He doesn't have to shave his head. They sprinkle on the ashes and good. I think he has to go to the mikveh afterwards, but that's good. Over here, because he's a Nazir, so he has to shave his head and then count. So here we're saying that because he was tamei beforehand, so since he doesn't have to bring the sacrifices that we learned in the Mishnah, so he can start to count on the seventh day. But he still has to shave his head. That's what we meant to say. You can count on the seventh day, but you still have to shave the head, just like a regular Nazir that becomes tamei has to shave his head. This person also has to shave his head. Avalin in Malkus, but regarding Malkus Mai, what do you want to say? Zel like if ain't like that. One of them gets Malkus and one of them doesn't. The one that was Tahar that became tamei gets Malkus, and then the one that was always tamei does not get Malkus. Listen, so why didn't you teach that? Why did you tell me Ain Bain? There's no difference except, and you tell me about counting the seventh day, and then you tell me that there's one more difference. Why didn't you say that was also a difference? Gemara says, "Betakante kamari kula kamari." We were giving instructions here, what he has to do. Does he count the seventh day? Does he not count the seventh day? We're not talking about punishments of what he does when he's defiant, and when he goes into a cemetery, bemazed. That wasn't what we were talking. This was the instruction manual. We were saying that when does he start counting? He starts counting on the seventh day versus the other one that starts counting on the eighth day. But do you want to tell me all the violations that someone can do and what punishments that we weren't discussing? So that's why you can't tell me if there would be a difference, you should have said it. No, that difference was regarding Kulkula, was how he messes up, that we weren't discussing. We weren't discussing the punishments.
Is it correct that you become tamei inadvertently?
Yeah.
Right. How can you have malchus from inadvertent?
No, there's no Malkus for inadvertent. This is only
This
Malkus
we're talking about
if he's
somebody
warned.
here who is a Nazir and decides he's going to go with
Yeah.
full knowledge and warning.
Right,
Decide he's going to go someplace where he'll become tamei.
right.
That's simple control now.
What happened is he became a Nazir, and someone passed away in his family or something. He says, I'm going to the cemetery. They say, no, you're not. You're a Nazir. So I don't care. I'm going anywhere. Right? And so he's going to get Malkus. Kitashima, Misha Yatame, someone that was Tamei ben Nazir, and he accepted on himself to become a Nazir. Tamei already. Also, the Galeach, Lishtis Yayin, it's not allowed to shave. He's an Avel, yeah. If that was the case, I made up that case. That wasn't the actual case. I'm just trying to make it like how it would be that someone is going to say, I don't care, I'm going into a cemetery. Like, why would he do that? Probably say he had a relative that passed away. He says, I don't care, I'm going. I'm adding that those details. Okay, someone that's tamei and he accepts on himself to be a Nazir. Also, legaleach, he's not allowed to shave his head because he's a Nazir. He's not allowed to drink wine. He's a Nazir. If he does shave his head, he does drink wine, and he does become impure, or he's a Sefer Geser Baron, it's Malkus. It's a very strong question on Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish says you don't get Malkus if he becomes impure. Rabbi Yochanan wins this argument. We would pass like Rabbi Yochanan anyway. But, yeah.
Doesn't he usually in the argument of Rish Lakish?
Well, the halacha is usually like Rabbi Yochanan.
His wife always.
Weird seeing Rabbi.
Yeah, you can take it off, I guess. pure, if that's acceptable, right? According to those opinions, I hold that you can. Not Bishamer. Well, you couldn't take it off. No, you can't pause it. No. Boy, Rava has a question. Rava's question is based on a rule that if someone is in the Beis Hamikdash, he's pure, but he becomes tamei in the Beis Hamikdash. I guess it's a ras or something. In the Beis Hamikdash, he comes in contact with the sheriff or something. Anyway, he has to leave. Maybe someone died.
Yeah, someone dies.
Someone dies. So he has to leave, but he doesn't leave right away. So he waits there the amount of time that it takes to bow down. That amount of time is shir shtachavaya. The amount of time it takes to bow down. So then he gets the punishment of coming into the temple when he's impure because he delayed leaving. So now we have questions like this. Nazir v'hu bebeis hakvaros mahu. Someone that accepted on himself to be a Nazir while he was in the cemetery. So, boy shiel malchus eloi. Does he require the amount of time that it would take in the temple to bow down? That delay. When does he get malchus? When he delays it, or is it immediately that he gets malchus? Echidami. What's the case? If we're talking about that, they tell him, don't. They obviously for malchus they have to warn him. So what's the case? He's in the cemetery and he's about to say, I'm going to be a Nazir. And they say, don't accept on yourself Nazirus. Why should he have to delay? He went against the warning and he accepted on himself to be a Nazir while he was in the cemetery. That's a violation. Nazir, my time alay by Shia the Kamasri Bay. Normally, a regular Nazir that enters into a cemetery, he doesn't have to wait in the cemetery a certain amount of time. Once he enters in, he becomes tamei. So this person also, here they warned him. It wasn't the warning him, don't go into the cemetery. They were warning him, don't become a Nazir while you're in the cemetery. But it's the same thing. Just like a Nazir that's outside the cemetery, that he's about to go inside, they warn him, they say, don't go in. He says, I don't care, I'm going in anyway. And he goes in, he gets malchus. Here he's in the cemetery and he says, I'm going to become a Nazir. They say, don't say you're going to become a Nazir. And he does it anyway, so he gets malchus. So why is there a question? Ella, the case must be different. For example, Shenichnas B'shida Tevel Migdal. He went into the cemetery and he's in a box. Some sort of case, remember they used to have, before they had the fences up by the oil, Kohen was not allowed to go into the, walk through the cemetery to go up to the oil. Now, because there's graves on there and you're coming within 4 cubits of the graves, so what they did was they had like a box that's sort of like protected from impurity. The Kohen would have a box.
Would go in a box and
yeah, it was a box that you would step into. You would open like a little gate, you would step into it. It didn't go over his eyes. It was just a box that he would hold like this and he would walk with it and it was like as if he's protected. And the tumah wouldn't enter. It was like this halachic Kohen protection tumah box.
But now they put up
Now there's
like
a
a lattice fence.
Fence now.
I guess the logic view created a separate domain.
Right.
It's one
Right.
that moves with them.
Right. So he goes into the cemetery in a box. And his friend comes and rips off the cover on it. I didn't know it needed a cover in the aisle. It didn't have a cover. Maybe it means it takes off the side of it or something. Maziva is a plaster, right? How do they translate that?
Ziva is the word. Ziva usually refers to the portion of material in the roof used to seal the holes in the roof and to seal the room against rain. In the days of the Talmud, the Ziva was made of a combination of fine beads and mud. with regard to the source of the word, some contend that its meaning is connected to fixing and assisting. Here, the meaning was expanded to include an upper covering or other objects as well.
It's interesting. I didn't think he needed a covering on top. I thought it was enough just to have the walls on the side.
Well, that's what it is, but they took the covering for the top and used it for the roof.
Are they taking off a wall at the top?
The top is the bottom.
Many question the place scenario. Being uncovered box does not cause one to control. Oh, very good. Therefore, some kind of explain that the word Nazir is referring to the opening the bottom of the box.
Oh. I'm talking about-
Maybe he took off. Some say that he took off a covering of the grave while he was right next to it or something. I don't know. Okay, whatever the case is, he's now in a situation where he could become tamei, or he is tamei. So ki gemirin shia bebeis hamikdash aval avroi loy. When do we say that there's this rule of the amount of time that it takes, that if you pause, that there's malchus, that's only if he's in the Beis Hamikdash and he becomes tamei. But outside, avroi means outside. Outside in a cemetery, there's no rule about shahia, about delaying and pausing from exiting the cemetery. Ideal mar maybe maybe there's no difference. So take Gemara leaves this as a question. Rava's question of if there's a certain amount of time that he could be exempt from punishment by pausing and that delay from exiting, there's that certain amount of time that's left over here as a takeover. I remember a complicated sikha from the Rebbe about Chatzi Shir by Shir Shtachavoya, very complicated. Chatzi Shir, you say there's a Chatzi Shir by that.
It's theoretically like okay deeper, it's the same idea, just a different way of expressing it.
Yeah, sort of. You have like a little amount of time that's not considered a pause until a delay. You have to leave it right away. But what's considered right away? There's so the amount of time it takes to bow down is considered not right away. Yeah. Okay. Boy Ravashi. Ravashi has another question. First one was Rava, now it's Ravashi. Nazir v'hu bebeis hakvaris tan giluach elai. What we're thinking right now, the question right now is, if someone is in a cemetery and he accepts on himself to be a Nazir, so normally if someone is a Nazir and becomes tamei, on the seventh day he has to shave his head. Right? When it becomes pure, he has to shave his head and restart. Does this person need to shave his head and restart? Ki baite glachas. When do we say that you need to shave the head? That was tar shenitma. Someone that was tar, that was a Nazir, that becomes tamei, become a tamei l'nazirus, because he made his nazirus impure, so that's why he has to shave his head and restart. Aval tamei shenazir loy, but he was always tamei. So the nazirus never really took off, at least regarding the tumah. Wasn't able to start counting it. So loy, he doesn't have to shave his head. Maybe there's no difference. Both of them have to shave the head. And we actually mentioned this, didn't we? No, we just said the Megillah, that was he wasn't allowed to shave his head before the 7 days were up. He was considered a Nazir enough, even though we're not counting the Nazirs, but he still wasn't allowed to drink wine or shave his head. Then we had another case where we mentioned before. Didn't we say letaglachas? There was a shavan. Glachas. We said before in the back and forth between Rabbi Yechon and Rish Lakish that both of them need to shave their head on the seventh day. We did mention that before. But anyway, over here, Rav Ashi has a question. Tashima, come and listen. Misha Nazir Vivesa Kvaris, someone that's a Nazir that accepts on himself a Nazir while he's in the cemetery. Even if he's there, this is our Mishnah. Even if he's there for 30 days, the 30 days that he's there doesn't count as his 30 days. Really shouldn't be there even for a moment, but he happens to be there. And he also doesn't bring the sacrifice that a Nazir normally brings when he becomes Tamei. Okay. Gemara says, Karban Tumah Hadlaimais. The Karban he doesn't bring. Aval Giluchi Bai. But he does have to shave his head. We're saying that by the fact that it didn't tell me that he has to shave his head means that the fact that it didn't tell me that he doesn't have to shave his head. It only told me the one thing that's different from a regular Nazir that becomes Tamei, that he doesn't have to bring the sacrifice. Sounds like that he does have to shave his head. For that aspect, he would be similar to a regular Nazir that became Tamei. Gemara says, no, Matam Ka'amar. It's explaining why doesn't he bring the Karban Tumah? Matam ain't maybe Karban Tumah. Mishum Delay by Giluche. That whole thing is one process. It's one process. The shaving of the head and bringing the sacrifice. When it says he doesn't have to bring the sacrifice, that's all because he doesn't shave the head. You bring the sacrifice after the shaving of the head. Tashma. Ein bein tamei shenazar lenazar tar shenitma. There's no difference between a tamei person that becomes a nazar to a tar person that's a nazar that then becomes tamei. There's no difference. There's only, I mean to say there's only one difference. The only difference is, can you count the seventh day as day one? Someone that was tamei before he started, so he counts the seventh day as day one, because it doesn't have to bring the sacrifices. And the one that was tahar before that became tamei, he has to wait till day 8 to start the count because he has to bring those sacrifices. My love, is it not? You said that they're equal for everything else except for the counting of the seventh day as day one. Sounds like they're equal for that they both have to shave the head. You said there's only one difference. Umar says, lie. That's not what we meant when we said there's only one difference. What we meant to say is all the malchus of shavin. Both of them get malchus if they become tamei, if they continue to become tamei. We said before that there's malchus. We said we had clear proof that there is malchus, right? That's when we had a tiyufta and Rish Lakish. Yeah, out the glachas.
He won't get malchus.
Yeah, so regarding the time that it takes to get out, that we left with the taker. We didn't have any answer to that. But definitely, if he waits that time, for sure there's going to be malchus. Or if he goes into a cemetery, right? That amount of time was when he became tamei in a cemetery. He became tamei in the Beis Hamikdash. Or if the case that we were saying is that he was in a cemetery in a box and someone took the cover off, so now he's going to become tamei if he delays. He's going to be tamei, but is he going to get malchus if he delays? Okay. Does he get malchus only if he delays? That's. But we say aval taglachas mai. But when it comes to the haircut, this one shaves the head and this one doesn't. That's what you're trying to tell me. You're saying that they're going to be equal, that they both get malchus. But when it comes to shaving of the head on the seventh day, you're going to say that it's not equal. If that's the case, that it's not equal, Isnaya, why don't you teach that? Why did you say ein bain? There's no difference between them except for this one thing about the seventh day, and then you come and tell me there's one other difference. Do they have to shave the head? So the Gemara says, when you said that you can count the seventh day, or you can't count the seventh day, that actually meant to tell you that you don't have to do the shaving of the head. If you can count the seventh day, it's because you don't have to do the shaving of the head, you don't have to bring the sacrifices, that goes together. So it's not a proof one way or the other, because you could always say that the fact that it didn't say that is because when it says the seventh day, it meant also the shaving of the head. Tashema, Okay, now we get into another topic over here, but the point of this topic is because we're going to mention over here the shaving of the head in the logic of this new topic that we mentioned. Someone becomes tamei when he's a nazir, so he has to restart the nazirus. Someone gets tzaras when he's a nazir, so he doesn't restart the nazirus, but he has to pause the nazirus and continue the days later. Okay, so it goes like this. I only have that when he's tamei, those days don't count. Not only don't they count, but he has to restart from the days before as well. But yemei chaluta minayin. How do I know that if he has taras, he can't count those days that he's tamei with taras as part of the nazirus days, right? So v'dinhu, the Gemara says it's logical. Ma yemei tamasim migaleach mevi karban, just like if he's tamei. At the end of his tumah, he has to shave his head and bring a sacrifice. After yemei chaluta migaleach mevi karban. So too, if he has taras, he has to shave his head and bring the sacrifice. That's the rule by taras. He has to shave his whole body. Now we compare. Just as just like the days of Tumah do not count as towards his Nazirus. If he was a Nazir for 30 days, he's Tamei for 7. We don't say that counts as part of the 30. Also, the days of Taras don't count. So that you see, there's a comparison here between Taras and Tumah. So we'll continue that comparison to say that those days don't count. Just like both of them, you need to shave the head and bring sacrifices when they're done. And also the days don't. Both of them you need to shave the head and bring the karbanos. One of them by Tumah, the days that he's tamei don't count towards the Nazirus. So to by Taras, you see already there's a comparison. The days that he's tamei shouldn't count towards the Nazirus. The Gemara says lie. The Brisa says. It's not a good comparison because when it comes to Tumah, not only do the days not count, but it even undoes all the days that he counted before. That's why they don't count. It has to, everything restarts. But when it comes to the Taras, no one says that it uproots the days that he did before. So maybe it also counts. As you see, we try to do a comparison and say, look, we know how this works. We have another case and it works the same. We respond to that. We say, you have another case, but it's not the same. So Amrit, say like this. Ma Nazir bekever. When it comes to a Nazir, and this is what we were looking for because we're continuing with this logic, but while we're doing this, we mentioned taking a haircut. Okay. So just as a Nazir, bekever, that means he becomes a Nazir when he's in a Beis HaKvaros, when he's in a cemetery. That his hair is fit to being shaved. Sounds like on the 7th day, they cut his hair. And in those days don't count. We know days before to uproot. So the days of when he's tamei, which is not fit to shaving, is it not more like kolshkein shein eliminated? For sure, it should not count. Those days shouldn't count. If someone that his days are fit for shaving the head, we think now it means after 7 days he has to shave his head. And nevertheless, those days don't count. So if tzaras, which those days is not fit for shaving, I have to figure out why, because tzaras does have to shave at the end. But we say it's not fit for shaving, so for sure those days shouldn't count. Okay, now the Gemara is going to say, my lav tiglachas tumah. What are you talking about? You're talking about that someone that was tamei, his head is fit for shaving after 7 days. There's 2 shavings that take place by a nazir. One is after 7 days, one is after the 30 days. Okay, so we think that what we're talking about here is that a nazir that was tamei, his head is fit for shaving after 7 days. See, that's a proof exactly to what we were asking before. Does a nazir that was tamei before he started the nazirus, does he have to shave after 7 days? like a regular nazir that becomes tummy. See, he does have to. Because
So,
we're using this as a comparison to a mitzvah.
Someone got Saras. He said he was a Nazir. 4 days go by, and he's got Saras. So he takes a break until he's right,
Pure.
and then
Continues another 26 days.
those 4 days before he
Count.
became, before he got, he has to restart those 4 days.
No,
before became,
He doesn't have to restart. He just adds to them.
Okay.
So the Gemara says now, no, we're dealing with Teglachas Tahara. It's just like this, that what's coming up next by this person is going to be a shaving of the head after the 30 days. The one that was Tameh before he started the Naziris, when is his next head shaving? When the Naziris is over. The one that had Tsaras, when is his next head shaving? When he's finished with the Tsaras. So if we say that this person that's Tameh, that the days of Tumah don't count for him, even though his next head shaving is going to be after the 30 days of the whole Naziris, and nevertheless those days before, he doesn't have to shave his head in the middle. He only has to shave his head after the Naziris is over. And compare this to Tsaras, where he does have to shave his head in the middle. So for sure, the Tsaras should not count. The days of Tsaras should not count towards the days of the Naziris. He even has to shave his head. That's like sort of like showing that he has to restart, that he has to start it from, that there's a break in it, that he can't count those days.
Could he have one during this break? Yes, Saras, for instance.
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Gemara says, the Gemara accepts this. It says, Hachinam Mistaber. It's also logical to say this. You see, when we said he's fit for shaving, he's not fit for shaving, we didn't know if we meant the shaving after the 7 or after the 30. We first thought it meant the 7, now we said it's after the 30. It says it's obviously after the 30, not after the 7. If you would have thought that it was after the 7, you may chalute milay boy teglachas. Does someone that has teras not have to shave his head? He also has to shave his head. If you're talking about after 7. So they're both the same.
The shaving on the 7th day is here. That's the only time that they shave after 7.
Or tzaras, yeah. Tzaras or tumah,
Which is,
right.
and, the other time that we saw that the pause in Egypt was like another
Nazir. And now we're learning tzaras as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Saras isn't usually a week.
It could be more, right. Right.
But in that first example, where it was for another Nazirship, like the same laws apply. I'm not sure.
That's when we learned this before. We said that if there was a pause in the middle of a nazir, nazirship, we had a discussion about if
70 years
in
or
that
80
pause,
years
if
and
in that pause then becomes tamei, does it break the whole thing or just the center? And that was we discussed this also regarding Taras. This came into play over there. The Gemara says that you don't have a full proof because it could be that when we said that the shaving only applies to the nazir that's tamei, it doesn't apply to the nazir with Taras, because the glachas de nazir is ketani. We're talking about the shaving of a nazir's shaving. I know that it's someone that Taras has to shave his head. But the nazir that is tamei, that started with tamei and then becomes a nazir, maybe what it meant was that he has to shave because of a nazir, and the one that has taras has to shave because of taras. But in other words, you still don't have a proof. We asked the question: does someone that was always tamei, that was tamei before he became a nazir, does he have to shave his head after 7 days when he becomes pure? So we thought we had an answer that he doesn't have to shave. Now we're answering that. Now we're saying that it's not necessarily a proof. It could be that he does have to shave. So then how would that compare that it's different than Tzaras? It says that this person has to shave because of Nazir. And that's the one that Tzaras has to shave. It's not a Naziris shaving. It's a Tzaras shaving. And that's why it could be that the Nazir has to shave. So let's leave it over here.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a great day.